Hello guys, Dr. Spooks here. If you enjoy my videos, please click the like button. It's the only way YouTube's algorithm really notices me. I would be very grateful to you. I found out some disturbing information about Chernobyl on the dark web. The story I'm about to tell you happened a long time ago. About 10 years ago, maybe even more. I love the dark web. I also love to go urban exploring, or let's just say exploring. Safe locations are no fun for me, but I still explore them. I love dangerous locations even more. I always do research for my locations to go urban exploring on the dark web. I do my research on the dark web because you can find a lot of uncensored information there, unlike the censored and the limited information you get from the regular web. About the dark web for the first time, I heard when I was still in high school. Yeah, I know I was young and stupid back then. But for the first time I saw it in a YouTube video. I don't remember which channel was or what YouTuber did the video, but I remember that from that video I learned how to access the dark web, how to download and set up Tor, and how to stay as safe as possible on the dark web. So one night I was doing my typical research about my next location. You know, the next location where I should do urban exploring. So going from one link to another, I stumbled upon a link about Chernobyl. First, I thought the Chernobyl accident happened back in the 80s, so it was a long time ago, and probably all of Chernobyl is already explored and everyone knows everything about that place. But how wrong I was. The first thing I found out is that even to this day in Chernobyl, in some places, the radiation is still high from the accident. I guess that is not that surprising, to be real. But as I was doing more and more research, I stumbled upon some pictures of weird animals. The animals had some physical changes. You know, from the radiation, their DNA changed. They had more legs than they should, or even one more head. Stuff like that. I have heard about that stuff before as well. But as I was doing even more research, I found out about a hidden area or sector. You can call it whatever you want. This grabbed my interest. When I tried searching on the regular web, there was nothing on there. Not a single bit of information. So this, of course, meant something. If something is not on the regular web, and there is not a single piece of information about it, someone is trying to keep it a secret, or something even worse. This place was underground. I will not mention the name of the area or the sector for your own safety and my own reasons as well. There was a little bit of information on how to actually go down there, but one thing was mentioned as well. If you actually plan to go down there, the radiation in that place is so high that it would kill you in about 10 seconds without the right kind of equipment and gear. After reading this far, I knew one thing for sure. This is my next location. I don't care about anything. This is it. I am going here. So in the next few days, I booked my flight to Ukraine. I needed to go to the Kiev Oblast in Ukraine. Now there was one big problem. For that place I wanted to go, you know, that hidden underground place, I needed equipment, but I cannot take that with me through the airport. So I needed to take my chances and test my luck to find something once I am there. And that is what I did. I got on the flight and landed in Kiev. In Chernobyl, there are two ways to enter: legally with a tourist guide and not so legally. You already know which way I chose, I guess. Entering Chernobyl wasn't exactly hard. I did it while it was dark. I can tell you one thing. If you are planning to enter Chernobyl, be careful. There are still guards and security going around. With me, I brought a backpack and Geiger counter. For those who don't know, Geiger counter is a tool used for measuring radiation levels. I can tell you it is true. In Chernobyl, in some places the radiation is still high. I checked it with my tool. But walking in Chernobyl during the night is scary. Like really scary. I am brave and I do explore other locations alone, but here is a different atmosphere and feeling. To be honest with you, I was so close to shit my pants because it was pitch black. The only source of light was my flashlight, and around me I could hear animals making weird noises. The first thing I came across in Chernobyl was an abandoned town. I've seen videos of this town on YouTube, so it is not a big deal. It is available to the public. You can go anytime there, so it is nothing special. It was a ghost town, basically. Buildings were left with furniture that was falling apart. The buildings were old. You can easily believe that, in that place, an accident happened. I decided to rest in one of the rooms a little bit because I was tired. I hid well and took a 3-hour nap. I ate a chocolate bar and I continued to walk deeper into Chernobyl. I needed to get closer to the place where the reactor exploded. So basically, I needed to get to the core where the whole accident happened. But as I was getting closer to it, my tool started acting crazy and started making weird noise. When I took a look at my tool, the radiation levels were so high. They were dangerous levels high. So I had two choices. The first choice is to risk my life without equipment. The other one is to go back and try to find some kind of left equipment and continue. I decided that the first choice is too dangerous, so I decided to go with the second one. I started going back from the way I came. I knew if I went again to that ghost town, I could find something there. I don't know if it was pure luck or destiny or something, but I actually found some kind of equipment. The only problem is that I had no knowledge of this equipment, and I didn't know if it still worked since it was probably older than me. So I had to take my chances. I decided to put it on and continue with my journey. I don't know if I really can call it this journey, but if there is not a single risk, it is not fun, right? Please do not answer that. As I was getting closer to the place from before the tool started going crazy again, the radiation levels were dangerous. I was determined to keep going forward. The place around me was dead. When I say dead, I mean there was no grass, no trees, nothing you would normally see. So that was proof that my tool was working like it should. After about an hour walking, I came to the place I saw on the dark web. It was so identical, so it must be it. This is where the dangerous part starts. I needed to find that well-hidden entry point. I don't know if the right way to say it is well-hidden or long forgotten. There wasn't too much information on the dark web about how to enter there. So, I was on my own from here. I knew I had to enter this hidden sector. I knew I could find some things over there that would make this journey worthwhile. I started looking around me. I tried to look on the ground for some kind of hidden bunker, or in this case, room door. But there was nothing like that. I was constantly making circles around that spot, but I couldn't find anything. I was starting to lose hope. The night was close. The sun was starting to set, so I sat down on a piece of metal square and started to think. There were stones on the ground, and I started to play with them. I started throwing rocks around. I don't know if you will believe me or not. Maybe you will call it luck or destiny, but one of the rocks hit some kind of metal. My eyes lit up. I got so excited after I heard that metal bang. I knew it must be something since around me it was empty. I went in the direction I threw the stone and there was a small metal handle. It was like a door handle. I tried to pull it, but it wouldn't budge. Then I tried to turn it, and it made a clicking sound. Then I tried to pull it again. It was heavy, but this time it started to open. The weird thing about it is that when I opened it, there were these long wall ladders going down. And even more weird thing was that inside there, the lights were still working. Inside there was still electricity. But for what? I climbed down the ladders slowly, and after a few minutes, I finally reached the bottom. Now I was in this long corridor with no doors on the left and right. The only direction I could go was straight. And that is what I did. I kept on walking straight until a door was in front of me. For the door to open, I needed a key card. I didn't have that kind of thing. But I had my small PC for hacking and a screwdriver. I knew how to pass locks like this. I tried to hack it, and luckily it worked. I was in the room I saw on the dark web. The first thing I noticed when I entered the room were the monitors. There were tons of monitors. They were covering the whole wall. On some of the monitors there was text, no signal, while on the others there was footage from Chernobyl. Yeah, you heard me right. Someone was keeping an eye on the people that were working here. But for what? And why I have this weird feeling? Why is that this was kept a top classified secret? Another thing I noticed is that the radiation levels were normal down here. My tool was showing 0 in this room. 0 radiation. There were a lot of shelves with a lot of books and documents. I started to go from one to another. Then I found out a document about weird experiments happening on the Chernobyl ground. They were experimenting on animals mostly. There was nothing about humans. Then, after reading some of the documents, I found something that scared the hell out of me. It was a document that was written before the accident, and it had instructions and variations on how to make an accident. In my mind, I was already thinking that would do something as big as that, just for experiment. How sick they have to be. There were also a lot of logs in this documents that I didn't understand. There was also one document about water experiments. They were all numbers and I had no clue what they meant. On a few of the cameras, I noticed guards and security walking around. There was a lot of them, so I decided not to test my luck more than I have to. I ate another chocolate bar down there and waited to get dark outside. Not completely, but a little. Just enough so it is harder to see and I will not have to use flashlight. The time finally came and I needed to move out. Walking back the long corridor felt longer than I came. It was weird, but I ignored it. I thought it was because I was tired. I didn't notice the time, but I reached the ladders and I climbed up. When I climbed up, it was pitch black. I said to myself, wait. What? How can this be? When I took a look on my clock, it was close to midnight. How can this be? When I started going back, it was 7 p.m. and now it is close to midnight? How is that possible? Where did 4.5 hours go? What? At this point, I was so tired I just kept walking. Finally, I was reaching the ghost town from before. Around this area, I left the radiation equipment I found. I knew I was not that far from the exit. I decided not to take any rest and get out of this place once and for all. So after walking and hearing all the weird animal noises, the exit was in sight. It was starting to get bright, and the sun was starting to rise, and I didn't want to be spotted by guards, so I rushed. I climbed the wall from where I came, and I went out. This was the best urban exploring I have ever done. I don't know if you can call this urban exploring, but this was the best thing that happened in my life. I went straight back to the airport, and with the first flight, I went home. After a few nights, finally, I will get some good night's sleep. Redditors, thank you for listening to my story. And let me tell you one thing, something weird was happening in Chernobyl back then. But something even weirder is happening now. So I was just scrolling through the dark web, checking out random stuff. Came across this listing for a mystery box. Thought, why not? Ordered it without thinking too much. When the package arrived, it looked pretty normal, just said mystery on it. Opened it up, found some odd things, a vintage watch, a weird journal with strange symbols, and this metal thing that glowed kinda cool. Didn't think much of it at first. Thought it was some sci-fi prop or something. Put it on my desk, looked cool there. But then things started getting weird. Started feeling sick, like really sick. Headaches that felt like a sledgehammer, and this constant nausea. Thought it was just a bug or something, but it didn't go away. Couldn't sleep one night, sweating like crazy, and having these messed up dreams. That's when it hit me. The metal thing might be the cause. Looked into it, and turns out it was emitting radiation, like dangerous levels. No wonder I felt like crap. Called the cops, explained the situation. They came, checked it out, and were like, "This is serious. It's hazardous." They took it away, sealed it in some lead box or whatever. Now I'm left wondering what the heck was in that box and what it was doing to me. Lesson learned, I guess. Stay away from mystery boxes on the dark web. So after the whole cops taking away the metal thing incident, I got kinda obsessed with figuring out what the heck was going on. Like, why was that thing spewing radiation like a broken microwave? I did some digging, Googling, asking around on forums, anything to get a clue. It was frustrating though. Dark web stuff is like a maze with no map. You think you're close to a clue, and bam, dead end. But I kept at it, like a stubborn detective in a bad TV show. Eventually, I stumbled onto this forum thread where people were talking about their own mystery box horrors. One guy said he bought something similar, ended up with nightmares that'd make a horror movie seem like a Disney flick. Others had their own weird experiences, like objects that seemed normal but had this creepy vibe. I messaged a few of these folks, shared my story. Most thought I was trolling or just plain nuts, but a couple seemed genuinely spooked, like they'd seen the same horror flick I was living. As I dug deeper, the stories got darker. Cursed objects, haunted relics, all being sold like eBay deals from hell. And there I was, thinking I hit the jackpot with a cool-looking metal ball. But here's the kicker. I couldn't shake this feeling of being watched, like someone or something was peering over my shoulder, waiting for me to slip up. Maybe it was paranoia from all this dark web drama, but it felt real, like a cold breeze on a hot day, chilling you to the bone. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, trying to unravel a mystery that feels more like a nightmare with each clue, and wondering if I'll ever get back to normal, whatever that means anymore. So after messing around with that mystery box and the metal thing inside, things went downhill fast. It wasn't just about weird dreams or spooky stuff. No, it got real, like hospital bed real. Turns out that metal thing was leaking radiation, and me, being clueless, kept it around like a cool souvenir. Big mistake. I started feeling sick, like really sick. Headaches that felt like a jackhammer, nausea that made eating a struggle. Thought it was just a bad flu or something, but it didn't let up. Doctors were stumped at first, running tests like a marathon but coming up empty. Then they dropped the bomb. Radiation poisoning. Like I stepped into a sci-fi flick, but this was no movie. Treatment was brutal, like a constant battle against my own body. Chemo, meds that made me feel worse before, if they made me feel better. Life got messy. Work? Forget about it. Friends? Drifted away, couldn't handle the whole sick friend thing. Every day was a grind, fighting not just the sickness but also the regret, the anger at myself for being so dumb. And those whispers? Not some ghost story. They were the harsh truths of a life turned upside down, all because of a dumb decision that left me fighting for normalcy in a world that suddenly felt anything but normal. So dealing with the aftermath of that dark web mess was no walk in the park. Physically, I was wrecked from the radiation treatment. It felt like dragging myself through quicksand every day, just trying to get by. But the mental toll was even worse. Facing your own mortality, realizing how fragile life is. Let's just say it messes with your head big time. I couldn't shake off this constant fear of the cancer coming back, of not making it through the next round of treatment. And then there's the paranoia. Every little noise, every flicker of light had me jumping to conclusions. Was it the radiation messing with my senses, or was there something else going on? It's like living in a constant state of alertness, never fully at ease. Trying to distract myself was tough. Friends and family tried to help, but unless you've been through it, you don't really get it. It's a lonely battle, fought mostly in your own head. But hey, there were moments of clarity too. Appreciating the little things, like waking up without a fever or getting through a day without feeling like crap. It's those moments that keep you going, that remind you there's still good stuff out there, even in the midst of all the crap. But yeah, dark web adventures, not worth it. Lesson learned the hard way, for sure. Looking back at the whole dark web mess, it's been a real eye-opener. One big lesson I've learned is to be careful with curiosity. Sometimes clicking on something just because it looks cool or mysterious can lead to serious trouble. It's like playing with fire without realizing how easily you can get burned. Health-wise, it's been a wake-up call. I used to take my well-being for granted, but going through all that radiation stuff made me realize how fragile life can be. Taking care of yourself, both physically and mentally, is super important. It's like investing in your own well-being insurance policy. Another thing I've learned is to trust my instincts more. If something feels off, it probably is. Whether it's a weird package from the internet or a gut feeling about a situation, listening to that inner voice can save you a lot of headaches. Literally, in my case. So yeah, that's my story. Dark web adventures and radiation scares. Definitely not recommended. But hey, life goes on, and I'm grateful for every day I wake up feeling okay. Live and learn, right? Alright, grab a seat and get comfy, because this story's going to take you on a wild ride. It all started on one of those late nights when boredom and curiosity tag-teamed me into surfing the dark web, the internet's shadowy underbelly where the forbidden fruit grows ripe. Now I'd heard all the rumors and cautionary tales about the dark web, how it's a digital den of thieves, hackers, and all sorts of shady characters. But hey, curiosity killed the cat, right? So there I was, diving headfirst into the digital abyss, navigating through layers of encryption and hidden URLs like a cyber sleuth on a mission. And that's when I stumbled upon it. A listing that stood out like a neon sign in a foggy alley. It was an old-school Ouija board, the kind you'd see in horror movies, complete with cryptic symbols and a promise of supernatural connection. Now, I've always been a skeptic when it comes to ghosts and spirits. But there's something about the unknown that tickles the imagination. Without thinking too much about the consequences, classic mistake, I know, I clicked that purchase button faster than you can say regret. A few days later, a nondescript package arrived at my doorstep, its contents shrouded in mystery and anticipation. Inside was the Ouija board, a relic from a bygone era, its wooden surface weathered with age and etched with letters and numbers that seemed to shimmer in the faint light. It had an aura of mystery and danger, like a Pandora's box waiting to be opened. Naturally, I couldn't resist the temptation to test its supposed powers. So I gathered a few close friends, set up the board in a dimly lit room, and we all huddled around, fingers poised on the planchette, ready to commune with the spirits of the beyond. At first, there was nothing but silence, broken only by nervous giggles and whispered jokes. But then, as if on cue from a horror movie, the planchette started to move. It was slow at first, almost imperceptible, but then it gained momentum, gliding across the board with an otherworldly grace. "Hello," it spelled out, the word hanging in the air like a ghostly greeting. We exchanged wide-eyed looks, a mix of excitement and apprehension dancing in our eyes. We bombarded the board with questions, and to our shock, it answered with chilling accuracy, revealing secrets and insights that sent shivers down our spines. The atmosphere in the room shifted, becoming charged with an electric energy that seemed to crackle with every word spelled out by the planchette. It was like we had tapped into a realm beyond our understanding, a realm where the laws of physics and logic bent like pretzels. As the night wore on, the messages from the Ouija board grew darker and more ominous. It spoke of forgotten tragedies, lost souls, and whispered warnings that sent a chill down our collective spines. We were in too deep, caught in a web of curiosity and fear that we couldn't escape. And then it happened. The planchette moved with a force that seemed to defy gravity, landing on a series of letters and numbers that formed a cryptic message. Abandoned mental hospital. The room fell silent, the weight of those words hanging in the air like a fog. We exchanged nervous glances, the reality of what we had just witnessed sinking in like a stone in our stomachs. Little did we know that our innocent game of ghost hunting would lead us down a path of terror and madness into the heart of a place that held secrets darker than the night itself. The message on the Ouija board left us stunned, like a bolt of lightning in a clear sky. Abandoned mental hospital. It sounded like something out of a horror movie, a place steeped in darkness and forgotten by time. Curiosity mingled with unease as we stared at those words, wondering what they meant and what awaited us if we dared to follow their lead. It was as if the board had opened a door to a realm of nightmares, and we were teetering on the edge, unsure whether to step back or plunge forward into the unknown. Despite the creeping sense of dread, or maybe because of it, we decided to investigate further. Armed with nothing but curiosity and a healthy dose of apprehension, we embarked on a quest to uncover the truth behind the ominous message. Researching the history of the mental hospital revealed a chilling past, a place that had once been a sanctuary for the mentally ill, but had descended into chaos and darkness. Stories of mistreatment, experimentation, and unspeakable horrors whispered through the corridors of time, painting a picture of a place tainted by tragedy and suffering. But it wasn't just the historical horrors that gave us pause. It was the present-day rumors, whispers of strange occurrences, ghostly apparitions, and inexplicable phenomena that continued to haunt the abandoned halls of the hospital. Undeterred by the ominous warnings, or maybe fueled by our own curiosity-driven bravado, we decided to visit the abandoned mental hospital. It was a moonless night, the air heavy with an unspoken tension as we approached the looming silhouette of the dilapidated building. Entering the hospital felt like stepping into a different dimension, a world of decay and despair, where every creaking floorboard and rustling wind carried the echoes of a troubled past. Shadows danced in the flickering light of our flashlights, playing tricks on our senses and heightening our senses to the slightest sound or movement. The atmosphere was suffocating, oppressive, as if the very walls of the hospital held on to the memories of anguish and suffering. We navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, our footsteps echoing in the silence like a heartbeat in the dark. And then we found it, the room that the Ouija board had led us to. It was like stepping into a scene from a nightmare, with peeling paint, broken furniture, and an aura of malevolence that hung in the air like a thick fog. As we stood in that room, surrounded by the remnants of forgotten lives and untold horrors, a sense of dread washed over us. It was as if the spirits of the past were watching, waiting for us to uncover their secrets and unleash their wrath. But little did we know that our presence had awakened something dark and vengeful, something that had been dormant for far too long. And as we would soon discover, some doors are better left closed, some secrets better left buried in the depths of the past. The room in the abandoned mental hospital seemed frozen in time, a haunting snapshot of a bygone era. Dust motes danced in the dim light, casting eerie shadows that seemed to shift and whisper secrets of their own. Despite the oppressive atmosphere, we pressed on, our curiosity outweighing our unease. The Ouija board had led us here for a reason, and we were determined to uncover the truth, no matter how unsettling it might be. As we explored further, we stumbled upon old patient records, yellowed with age and neglect. The stories they contained were heartbreaking, tales of forgotten souls, broken minds, and the cruelty of a system that had failed those it was meant to heal. But it was a particular record that sent a chill down our spines, an entry detailing a patient named Sarah, a young woman who had been admitted for severe mental trauma. According to the records, Sarah had been subjected to experimental treatments that bordered on torture, her screams echoing through the halls like a haunting melody. The more we delved into Sarah's story, the more it felt like she was reaching out to us from beyond the grave, begging us to uncover the truth and set her restless spirit free. It was as if the Ouija board had acted as a conduit, connecting us to a world of pain and suffering that refused to be forgotten. But as we were about to discover, some secrets are buried for a reason. As we continued our investigation, strange things began to happen. Objects moved on their own. Whispers echoed through the corridors, and shadows seemed to take on a life of their own. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling around us, revealing a darkness that lurked just beneath the surface. We tried to rationalize the occurrences, blaming it on our overactive imaginations or the decaying state of the building. But deep down, we knew that something far more sinister was at play. And then Sarah's presence made itself known. It started with subtle signs, a flickering light, a cold breeze, but soon escalated into full-blown manifestations. We saw her, or at least her apparition, wandering the halls with a look of anguish etched on her spectral face. It was a chilling sight, one that made us question our sanity and the nature of reality itself. Had we unleashed a vengeful spirit by meddling with forces beyond our understanding? Or was there something darker at work, something that had been waiting for us to stumble into its domain? As the night wore on, the hospital seemed to come alive with malevolent energy, as if feeding off our fear and uncertainty. We knew we had to leave, to escape the clutches of whatever darkness had been awakened. But escape wouldn't be easy. The hospital had become a labyrinth of nightmares, with doors that led to nowhere, corridors that twisted and turned like a maze, and an ever-present sense of being watched by unseen eyes. It was a race against time and terror as we navigated the haunted halls, each step bringing us closer to the truth and closer to the edge of madness. And as we would soon discover, the past never truly dies. It lingers, waiting for the curious souls foolish enough to seek it out. The haunting presence of Sarah, the tortured spirit of the abandoned mental hospital, grew stronger with each passing moment. It was as if she was guiding us, leading us deeper into the heart of darkness that had consumed her. As we ventured further into the hospital's depths, the lines between reality and nightmare blurred. Time seemed to warp and bend, with minutes stretching into eternity and the boundaries of space shifting like mirages in the desert. We encountered rooms that defied logic, a surgical theater frozen in time, its tables stained with dried blood and echoes of agonized screams, a children's ward filled with broken toys and whispered lullabies that sent shivers down our spines, and a solitary confinement cell where the air was heavy with the weight of despair and madness. With each new discovery, the hospital revealed more of its grim history, a history tainted by cruelty, neglect, and unspeakable atrocities. We read patient testimonials etched into the walls, desperate pleas for mercy and sanity that fell on deaf ears. But it wasn't just the past that haunted us. The present seemed to conspire against us, with strange phenomena intensifying as we delved deeper. Shadows danced at the edges of our vision, whispers echoed in the darkness, and the temperature plummeted to bone-chilling levels. We tried to rationalize what we were experiencing, attributing it to the decaying state of the building or our own overactive imaginations. But deep down, we knew that something far more sinister was at play. And then, Sarah's presence became undeniable. We saw her apparition more frequently, her spectral form flickering in and out of existence like a glitch in reality. Her eyes held a mixture of sadness and rage, as if she was trapped between worlds, unable to find peace. It was during one of these encounters that things took a terrifying turn. Sarah's apparition appeared before us, her voice a haunting whisper that echoed through the halls. She spoke of pain, betrayal, and a desire for revenge against those who had wronged her. In that moment, we realized the gravity of our situation. We had unwittingly unleashed a vengeful spirit, one with the power to exact retribution on the living. And as we stood face to face with Sarah's wrath, we knew that our only chance of survival was to find a way to appease her tortured soul. But appeasing a vengeful spirit is no easy feat, especially when you're trapped in a labyrinth of nightmares with no way out. Every step we took felt like a plunge into madness, with the hospital's dark history clawing at our sanity and threatening to consume us. As the night wore on, fear and desperation became our constant companions. We searched for clues, for anything that could help us understand Sarah's pain and find a way to put her spirit to rest. But with each passing moment, it became clear that our chances of survival were dwindling, and the line between reality and nightmare blurred beyond recognition. In the depths of that haunted hospital, we faced our darkest fears and the consequences of meddling with forces beyond our control. And as we would soon discover, some doors should never be opened, and some secrets should never be unearthed. As the night wore on, our situation grew increasingly dire. Sarah's vengeful spirit seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment, her presence looming over us like a dark cloud. We searched frantically for a way to appease her, to find closure for the tortured soul trapped within the hospital's walls. But the answers remained elusive, hidden in the shadows of the past. With no other options left, we decided to confront Sarah directly, to plead for her forgiveness and offer whatever solace we could. It was a risky move, one that could either save us or seal our fate. We found her in the heart of the hospital, in a room that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Her apparition flickered before us, her eyes filled with a mixture of pain and anger. We spoke to her, pouring out our regrets and apologies, hoping that our words would reach her tormented soul. But Sarah's rage was palpable, her thirst for revenge unquenchable. As we pleaded with her, the hospital itself seemed to come alive, its walls groaning and shifting as if in response to Sarah's wrath. It was as if the building itself was a manifestation of her anger, a prison that held her captive for eternity. And then it happened, a surge of energy unlike anything we had ever experienced. The air crackled with electricity, and Sarah's apparition grew more solid, more real. In that moment of desperation, I reached out to her, offering my hand in a gesture of peace. And to my surprise, she hesitated, her eyes softening for the briefest of moments. It was then that I realized the key to setting her free. It wasn't just about offering apologies or seeking forgiveness. It was about acknowledging her pain, validating her existence, and allowing her to find closure on her own terms. With a final plea, I urged Sarah to let go of her anger, to release the chains that bound her to the hospital and embrace the light of peace. And in that moment, something shifted. The air grew still, the shadows receded, and Sarah's apparition began to fade. As she disappeared into the ether, a sense of calm washed over me, mingled with sadness for the tortured soul we had encountered. The hospital seemed to sigh with relief, its oppressive atmosphere lifting like a fog. We left the abandoned mental hospital that night, changed in ways we couldn't fully comprehend. The experience had been harrowing, but it had also taught us the power of empathy, of understanding the pain of others, even those from beyond the grave. And as I look back on that night, I can't help but wonder, was it all a hallucination, a shared delusion brought on by fear and exhaustion? Or did we truly encounter the spirit of Sarah, a lost soul seeking redemption in a world of darkness? The answer remains elusive, hidden in the mysteries of the abandoned mental hospital and the secrets of the dark web. Let me paint you a picture of how this whole thing started. It was a humid summer day, the kind where even the air felt heavy with secrets. My grandma, bless her unpredictable soul, hands me this small velvet box with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Now you've got to understand, my grandma's gifts have always been a mix of whimsical and downright bizarre, but this one took the cake, or rather, the ring and the coin. I open the box, and inside, nestled against the velvet, are two items that immediately set off alarm bells in my head. First, there's the ring. It's not your run-of-the-mill sparkler. No, this thing is something straight out of a fantasy novel. The metal is cool against my skin, and the engravings. Oh boy, the engravings. They're like nothing I've ever seen. Symbols that seem to shift and writhe as if they have a life of their own. It's mesmerizing and unsettling at the same time, like a puzzle begging to be solved. And then there's the coin. At first glance, it looks like a relic from a forgotten era. The edges are worn smooth from centuries of handling, and the markings on it are so faded that they could be mistaken for mere scratches. But there's something about the weight of it in my palm, the way it seems to hum with a hidden energy, that tells me there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Naturally, my curiosity goes into overdrive. I mean, who wouldn't be curious about such mysterious gifts? So, like any modern-day sleuth, I turn to the dark web. Now, let me tell you, navigating the dark web is like navigating a minefield blindfolded, but armed with determination and a healthy dose of caution, I dive headfirst into the digital abyss. Days blur into nights as I scour forums, chat rooms, and hidden websites, searching for any clue that could unravel the enigma of these artifacts. And then, like a beacon in the darkness, I stumble upon a thread that sends shivers down my spine. The discussion revolves around ancient artifacts from Iraq, whispered tales of a master craftsman who wove magic into his creations. They talk about hidden workshops in the depths of the desert where legends and reality blur into one. And what do you know? The descriptions match the ring and the coin perfectly. Now, most people would have probably called it quits at this point, chalked it up to Grandma's eccentricity, and moved on with their lives. But not me. No, I'm stubborn to a fault when it comes to solving mysteries. So,
Armed with newfound knowledge and a sense of impending doom, I delved deeper into the rabbit hole, determined to uncover the truth behind my grandma's seemingly innocuous gifts. Little did I know, I was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about reality and plunge me into a world of ancient secrets, dark forces, and a connection between my grandma, the dark web, and a mysterious craftsman from a land steeped in myth and legend.
As my investigation into the dark web's mysteries deepened, I found myself entangled in a web of cryptic clues that seemed to beckon me further into the unknown. It was like navigating a maze with shifting walls, where every turn revealed new secrets and dangers lurking in the shadows. One fateful night, while traversing the murky depths of a hidden forum known for its esoteric discussions, I stumbled upon a thread that sent a chill down my spine. It spoke of a clandestine group, shrouded in secrecy, rumored to possess ancient knowledge and wield powers beyond mortal comprehension. Whispers circulated about their involvement in arcane rituals that tapped into the energies of forgotten artifacts. Artifacts like the ring and coin that now lay in my possession. The chatter in the forum hinted at a connection between this enigmatic group and the elusive craftsman from Iraq. Legend spoke of his mastery in crafting objects imbued with mystical properties. Objects that could alter reality itself in the hands of those who understood their true potential. With each revelation, my curiosity transformed into a burning obsession. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of uncovering something monumental, something that had been hidden from the world for centuries. But delving into the secrets of the dark web comes with its risks. I encountered whispers of dark forces lurking in the digital shadows, entities hungry for the power that ancient relics could bestow. It was a chilling reminder that I was treading on dangerous ground, playing a high-stakes game with forces beyond my control. And then, just when I thought I had reached a dead end, a breakthrough came in the form of a cryptic message. It arrived in my inbox like a whisper from the void, a string of numbers and coordinates that pointed to a remote location in the heart of the Iraqi desert. It was a moment of reckoning. I had to make a choice, turn back and abandon the trail of breadcrumbs that had led me here, or embark on a journey into the unknown, risking everything for the chance to unravel the mysteries that had consumed my every waking thought. With a mix of trepidation and excitement coursing through my veins, I made preparations for the journey ahead. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a harrowing odyssey that would test the limits of my courage, sanity, and beliefs in ways I never could have imagined. The journey to the coordinates I had received was no easy feat. It involved navigating treacherous terrain, braving blistering heat, and constantly looking over my shoulder, aware that I might be followed by unseen eyes. As I approached the designated location in the Iraqi desert, a sense of unease settled over me. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional gust of wind that carried whispers of ancient secrets lost to time. Upon reaching the coordinates, I was met with a sight that sent shivers down my spine. A dilapidated structure half buried in the sand, its walls adorned with faded symbols reminiscent of those on the ring I had received. With cautious steps, I entered the abandoned workshop, feeling as if I had stepped into a forgotten chapter of history. The air was heavy with the weight of centuries, and every creak of the wooden floorboards echoed like a ghostly lament. As I explored the decrepit interior, I uncovered remnants of the craftsman's artistry. Tools worn with age, scraps of metal etched with arcane runes, and fragments of unfinished creations that seemed to pulse with dormant energy. But it was what I found hidden beneath a floorboard that made my blood run cold, a journal, its pages yellowed with age, filled with cryptic writings and sketches that hinted at the true nature of the artifacts I sought. The journal spoke of a forbidden ritual, one that promised untold power but came with a grave price. It detailed the crafting process of objects infused with the essence of ancient deities, objects that could bend reality to the will of their wielder. It became clear to me that the ring and coin were not mere trinkets. They were keys to unlocking a power beyond comprehension. But with that power came a darkness that threatened to consume those who dared to seek it. As I read on, I realized that my grandma's seemingly innocent gifts were anything but. She had unwittingly stumbled upon a legacy of forbidden knowledge, a legacy that now beckoned to me with whispered promises of power and peril. With each revelation, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I was on the brink of uncovering truths that could change everything I knew about the world, about reality itself. But at what cost? And who else was aware of these secrets, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim the power that lay dormant in these artifacts? The desert held its secrets close, and I knew that unraveling the mysteries of the craftsman's workshop was only the beginning of a journey fraught with danger and deception. But I couldn't turn back now. The lure of forbidden knowledge was too strong, and I was determined to see this through to the end, no matter the consequences. Returning from the desolate expanse of the Iraqi desert with the journal clutched tightly in my hands, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stepped into a realm where reality blurred with ancient myth and forbidden secrets. The weight of the journal pressed against my chest, its pages a testament to the dark truths that lurked beneath the surface of the artifacts I sought. As I settled back into my familiar surroundings, the journal became both a source of fascination and dread. Its yellowed pages held cryptic writings that spoke of rituals so ancient and arcane that they seemed to defy comprehension. Each word was a whisper from a bygone era, a glimpse into a world where mortals dared to challenge the boundaries of reality itself. But amidst the mysticism and intrigue, there was a palpable sense of danger. The journal warned of the consequences of wielding the power of the artifacts, the toll it took on the mind, the soul, and the very fabric of existence. It spoke of a darkness that lurked within the objects, a darkness that hungered for souls and twisted the desires of those who dared to seek its power. One entry in particular sent shivers down my spine, a frantic scribble, as if the author had been on the brink of madness. It spoke of a curse that befell those who delved too deep, a curse that bound their fate to the artifacts for eternity. But despite the warnings, I couldn't turn back now. The journal had become a roadmap to unlocking the mysteries that had plagued my thoughts since receiving the gifts from my grandma. It detailed the origins of the artifacts, tracing their lineage back to ancient civilizations that worshipped forgotten gods and practiced dark rituals. The more I delved into the journal's secrets, the more I realized the magnitude of what I had stumbled upon. The artifacts were not mere trinkets, they were conduits of power, channels through which ancient energies flowed. And with each revelation, I felt a sense of both exhilaration and dread, knowing that I was standing on the precipice of knowledge that could change the course of history. But with knowledge came responsibility, and I knew that I had to tread carefully. The shadows seemed to grow darker, the whispers of unseen forces louder, as if warning me of the dangers that lay ahead. And yet, I couldn't deny the allure of forbidden knowledge, the pull of uncovering truths that had been buried beneath layers of deception and time. So, armed with the journal's revelations and a sense of trepidation, I prepared to confront the truth that awaited me. Little did I know the journey ahead would test my resolve, sanity, and beliefs in ways I never could have imagined. But I was committed to unraveling the mysteries that had ensnared me, no matter the cost. With the weight of the journal's revelations heavy on my mind, I embarked on the final leg of my journey, a journey that would lead me to confront the truths that had eluded me for so long. Armed with determination and a mix of apprehension and curiosity, I set out to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the artifacts and their connection to my grandma. As I retraced the path that had brought me to this point, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey itself. It had been a roller coaster of emotions, from initial curiosity to growing apprehension, and now a steely resolve to face whatever lay ahead. Arriving at the location where the artifacts were first discovered, I felt a sense of anticipation mingled with dread. The air crackled with energy, as if the very earth held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. With trembling hands, I retrieved the ring and coin from where I had kept them safe. As I held them in my palms, I felt a surge of power coursing through me, a whisper of ancient knowledge brushing against my consciousness. but with that power came a sense of foreboding. The warnings from the journal echoed in my mind, reminding me of the dangers that lurked within the artifacts. I knew that wielding their power would come at a cost, one that I might not be prepared to pay. Nevertheless, I pressed on, driven by a thirst for answers that outweighed my fears. With a deep breath, I activated the ritual described in the journal, invoking the ancient energies that lay dormant within the artifacts. What happened next is a blur, a whirlwind of sensations, visions, and revelations that defied logic and reason. I glimpsed worlds beyond our own, realms of existence that defied description. I saw the faces of those who had come before me, their desires and fears etched into the very fabric of reality. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the ritual ended, leaving me gasping for breath and reeling from the experience. I had glimpsed the forbidden knowledge that the artifacts held, but at what cost? As I looked down at the ring and coin, I knew that I had crossed a line from which there was no turning back. The power I had unleashed was both exhilarating and terrifying, a double-edged sword that promised both enlightenment and damnation. But amidst the chaos and uncertainty, one thing became clear. My grandma's seemingly innocuous gifts had led me down a path of discovery that had changed me irrevocably. I had ventured into the realms of ancient mysteries, brushed against forces beyond comprehension, and come face to face with the price of forbidden knowledge. And as I stood there, grappling with the consequences of my actions, I couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets lay waiting to be uncovered, and at what cost would I continue to seek them? The scariest thing ever happened to me while browsing the dark web, so I'm just a normal guy. I'm a teenager and a student. I am 19 years old. My name is Nikki, and recently me and my family moved into another house. I am not good at sports, and I don't have a hobby. I don't have any passions. In my free time, I use my computer for games and fooling and wasting time on the regular web, but I also surf the dark web as well. But one thing I love is scary stuff. Horror movies, horror images, and stuff like that. I also love paranormal stuff. You know, the stuff about ghost demons, spirits, evil spirits, and stuff. I also love stuff about games like Ouija board. So, you're probably asking yourself, how is this connected to the dark web? Well, one night I was surfing the dark web. You know, I was searching for the usual stuff I am looking for. Something like a scary story or a paranormal video or a sighting of a ghost or something like that. I also love to read a lot about paranormal and haunted places. There are a lot of pictures and videos about haunted places on the dark web. There are also a lot of stories about haunted places and ghosts on the dark web. There are a lot of paranormal blogs and blogs about exploring haunted places. I was an addict to those stories and places. I love to read and read about them. But I was never brave enough to explore a place like that. You can say I didn't have someone to accompany me, or you can just say I was just simply scared. So one night I was looking for some videos, photos, and stories about some haunted place. And when I saw that picture, it felt like my heart stopped. I felt chills. Literally chills. It was a picture of my new house where me and my family recently moved. Let me make something clear first. We've been living in this house for a couple of weeks, and there is nothing wrong with the house. There are not any weird noises, no objects moving, no flickering lights, nothing of that paranormal stuff you see in the movies and you hear in the stories. There was nothing paranormal and haunted about this house. So why was it on the dark web? Why was it there? What was the reason? I had to see what it was written and the pictures that were there. The first thing I looked at was the pictures. They were pictures taken from a room inside the house I knew really well. It was the kitchen. The weird thing about the pictures is that they were all focused on the floor. And in the text underneath the images, it was written about a small hole in the floor. You could clearly see that there was a small hole in the floor. So I run straight to the kitchen and found the same hole. My family was still home, so I didn't want to do anything. I waited for them to go somewhere so I can be alone. And when I was finally alone at home, I tried to see what is that all about the hole in the floor. I went to my dad's garage to grab something like a crowbar. I needed that so I can break the parquet. I don't know if I mentioned it, but in the kitchen we had a parquet floor, so if this was for nothing, I was damaging the floor for no reason and I would get in trouble. But I took my chances. When I used the crowbar to make a bigger hole, I spotted stairs that were going down. It was so dark, so I needed my phone or a flashlight. The moment I climbed down the stairs, the atmosphere was different. The air was cold, and it was creepy as hell. This looked like underground chamber. This place was massive, I can tell you that much. And it was easy to get lost in it. I mean, these tunnels were going in every direction. I decided to keep moving only straight, and I came close to a small room. Inside the room there were coffins. Can you imagine? Coffins. We were living under dead people, or whatever is inside them. When I saw the coffins, I got so scared I run back the way I came. I was scared to explore this alone, so I waited for my brother to come home. He was working, so I needed to wait for him for a couple of hours. Eventually the time passed and he came back home. When I told him about it, he did not believe me at first. But when I showed him the stairs, he was with me on this one. He wanted to explore the chamber with me. He was always braver than me. He was also an adventurous one as well. So we went down the stairs together, and this time we decided to take the tunnels on the right. We kept moving straight, and after some time there was an exit out in the forest. The forest was close to our house. The weird thing is why it was connected to an underground chamber. And why is it under our house? In the tunnels on the right, there weren't any rooms. The only way to go there was straight, and that way would lead you to the forest. So we decided to go back and check the tunnels on the left. The tunnels on the left, after walking straight for a few minutes, we came in front of a big metal door. It wasn't locked, so we entered easily. Inside there were a lot of books and papers like documents. The weird thing is that they were in language we didn't understand. On every book and on every paper, there was a strange logo. The logo was like a circle, and inside the circle, there was a pentagram. And above the circle, there were symbols as well. To this point, nothing happened, and everything was okay. Then, in one moment, we heard a loud bang noise. It was like someone dropped a metal pipe or something on the floor. And since the tunnels were connected to each other, the echo was so loud. This scared the hell out of me. I even started to panic. I started asking my brother questions like, "What was that? What is going on? Was that a ghost?" My brother, on the other hand, was chill and cold as ice, and he said to me, "Chill, dude. Do not be such a loser. Let's just check it out. It is probably nothing." While he was saying that, I don't know what it made me, but I looked up. On the ceiling, there was a large drawn pentagram. With a trembling and shaking voice, I said to my brother, "Hey, look up." I was shaking up, but this dude was like, "Damn, that's cool." I was like, "Dude, did you hit your head when you were small, or what's wrong with you? How can you be this calm in this situation? I just don't understand you. We are totally different." Then my brother said to me, "Don't be such a loser, and come with me. Let's check what was that noise all about." While we were rocking to find out what that noise was all about, the atmosphere, it was feeling weird. The air, it was like it was getting cold. I can't explain this feeling, but it was like something was with us. An unknown presence. I asked my brother if he was feeling it as well. But he was like, "No, dude, that is just your imagination because you're way too scared." I said to him, yeah, whatever. But as we were walking through the tunnels, we heard the same banging noise again. Only this time it was louder. A lot louder. And this time we heard the scream as well. It was like an animal scream. Like an animal that is in pain or something. It was more like a cry out for help kind of scream. After hearing that, now my brother's face has changed. I could see it on him. He was a little bit scared. He didn't want to show it in front of me, but I could feel it. We were planning on checking what the hell was that, but we spotted a door we missed before. We entered that door, and it was a horrifying sight. Inside this room, there were torches that were still burning. In the middle of the room, there was a giant red book and a knife. There was also like an open coffin, and inside the coffin there was a girl inside. More like a woman to be real. There were also seats like in church. What we didn't notice at first, in the corner of the seats, there was someone sitting. It looked like a person. When I saw him staring at us, I screamed my lungs out. And I started to run as my life depended on it, and maybe it did depend on it. My brother started to run as well, together with me. Both our flashlights started to flicker. And that was one more sign to get out. The person that was sitting there started to make some weird noises. The noises were not making this any less scarier than it already was. We managed to escape and climb up the stairs. Me and my brother were both shaken up. We decided to both sit down in the kitchen and look at the stairs for own safety. We waited for our parents to get home and tell them about everything. At first they didn't believe us, but when we showed them the stairs and a little bit of the tunnels, and when they saw how persistent I was together with my brother, they decided to listen to us. That same night, we took our stuff and just left. We put the house on sale, and we never looked back on that house or that town ever again. After this event, I will never go on the dark web ever again, and I will never ever read any ghost stories or any paranormal stories. This was it for me. So my advice for you all is, if you are buying a house, make sure you know what are you buying. Research first. Look up the history of the place and stuff like that, because the stuff that happened to me is traumatizing. I never wish for any one of you to experience something like this. I still have nightmares of the person sitting in that room. Sometimes in my nightmares I can still hear the noises and the screams from the tunnels. And from time to time I can feel like someone's watching me and like someone is chasing me. I know this is all just a trauma and a feeling, but sometimes it's hard to shake it off. So I hope you take my advice and stay off the dark web. And before you buy a house or a place, make sure you read the history. And make sure you're not buying any haunted house or chamber like us. So here's how it all went down. I've always been into checking out creepy stuff, abandoned places and all that jazz. One day, I stumbled upon this shady dark web blog talking about some old mental hospital nobody dared to visit. Now, I'm not easily spooked, so I thought, why not give it a shot? I got the coordinates from the blog and drove out there. The place was like straight out of a horror flick. Broken windows, overgrown weeds, the whole shebang. I should have turned back right then, but curiosity had me by the collar. Inside, it was a real mess. Beds with straps still on them, papers scattered, and this weird smell lingering in the air. I brushed it off, thinking it's just old building stink. Then came the basement. Let me tell you, that place was a nightmare. Bloodstains, creepy tools lying around, and these scribbles on the walls like someone lost their marbles. I swear, I heard whispers down there, like voices begging for something. By the time I got out, I was sweating bullets. The whole experience messed with my head big time. That blog led me to a place that felt cursed, like I shouldn't have set foot there in the first place. And after that day, I made a mental note to steer clear of abandoned spots. Some things you just don't mess with, So after that whole mental hospital thing, my life took a nosedive. I started having nightmares almost every night, with that creepy basement scene replaying like a broken record. But it didn't stop there. Weird stuff started happening around me. Things moving on their own, shadows doing this flickering dance, and this constant whispering that just wouldn't quit. I tried to shrug it off, blaming stress or my mind playing tricks. But then came the voices. At first, they were like whispers in a crowded room, barely audible. But they got louder, clearer, and they weren't saying normal stuff. It was like gibberish mixed with pleas for help, and it freaked me out big time. I tried talking to my friends about it, hoping they'd think I'm just going through a rough patch, but even they noticed something was off. I became super paranoid, always looking over my shoulder, feeling like something was watching me. I started avoiding places with too much history, places that gave me this weird vibe, and that blog. It became a reminder of my mistake, a reminder that some things are better left alone. And here I am, still dealing with the aftermath. That asylum messed with my head in ways I can't even explain. It's like I opened a door to a whole lot of darkness that I wish I never knew existed. So after all that creepy stuff at the asylum, I couldn't shake this feeling like something from there was still hanging around me. Like it followed me home, you know? So I started digging into the history of that place, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And man, what I found was straight out of a horror movie. The asylum had this messed up past, abuse, experiments that went way wrong, and people just vanishing without a trace. One name kept popping up in my search, Dr. Elias Blackwood. He was the big-shot psychiatrist there, but rumor had it he was into some real shady stuff, like crazy experiments, and maybe even dabbling in the occult. I found these old records, journals full of messed-up treatments they did on patients, and whispers about some dark rituals they did after hours. It was like every page I turned was another level of freaky. But here's where it gets really messed up. I found this old photo, right? It was of a bunch of patients outside the asylum, looking like they'd seen the worst of it. And in that photo, there's me. Yeah, my face clear as day, in a picture from way back when. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could I be in a picture from way before I was born? It was like the asylum's messed up past was reaching into my life, and I had no clue how to deal with it. That photo was like a constant reminder that I couldn't ignore anymore. I had to figure out what was going on, why I was somehow connected to that messed up asylum. I dug into Dr. Blackwood's history even more, trying to piece together how he could be tied to me. Turns out he wasn't just a doc at the asylum. He was into some really dark stuff outside of it too. One night, while going through old papers, I heard a clear voice saying, "Find me." It was freaky, but it felt like a clue, a push in the right direction. So I went back to the asylum not because I wanted to, but because I had to. The place felt different, like it was waiting for me. In the basement where it all started, the whispers got louder, leading me to a hidden room. There I found a weird mirror, not like any mirror you'd see in a store. It showed me, but also another version of me, trapped in Blackwood's experiments. It hit me. I was somehow caught up in his messed up games. I touched the mirror, and something clicked. It was like I understood what was going on, how Blackwood used it to mess with time and souls. Without thinking, I smashed the mirror, breaking whatever connection tied me to that place. The whispers stopped, the weird feelings faded, and I felt free. But it was a heavy lesson. Some things you just shouldn't mess with. And as I left that asylum behind, I made a promise to myself to never dive headfirst into mysteries I don't understand. After leaving that asylum, things started to get back to normal. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, you know? I realized I had to be more careful about what I got myself into, especially when it came to creepy stuff. I focused on moving ahead, trying to find my sense of normalcy again. I stayed away from anything spooky or weird, sticking to things that felt safe and positive. Slowly but surely, the nightmares stopped bothering me, and those whispers I used to hear faded away. It took time, and there were moments where I doubted if I'd ever feel okay again, but I did. Looking back, it's like a lesson learned the hard way. Curiosity is cool and all, but you gotta be smart about it. I'm still curious about things, but I'm more careful now, always thinking twice before diving into something unknown. So, yeah, that whole ordeal taught me to respect the unknown and to be mindful of where my curiosity leads me. It's like a reminder to stay grounded and not let curiosity turn into a nightmare. So picture this. I'm up late one night just surfing the web like I usually do when I should be sleeping. I stumble upon this forum talking about some crazy file hidden in the dark web. Supposedly it's got proof that aliens or something are out there, watching us. Now I'm not usually one for this kind of stuff, but curiosity got the best of me. I followed the breadcrumbs, jumping through hoops with VPNs and special browsers, until I finally got my hands on this file called Eyes of the Unknown. Opening it was like stepping into a sci-fi movie. There were these pictures of what looked like aliens, weird symbols in fields, and stories from people who claimed they'd been taken by aliens. It was all too much, like I'd stumbled into some secret government X-Files folder. The last picture, though, that's what really freaked me out. It was a close-up of someone's face, pure terror in their eyes. The caption said something like, "They're watching, waiting, and they know we're onto them." I closed the file, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. Was it real? Who knows? But it sure felt like I'd uncovered something way bigger than me. Something that made me question everything I thought I knew about the universe, and that feeling, let me tell you, it's not something you shake off easily. So after that crazy night, I couldn't get those images out of my head. It was like they were stuck on repeat, playing over and over again in my mind. I got kinda obsessed with finding out more, you know? I spent hours diving into the dark web, chatting with random folks who might have seen the same stuff. But it was like chasing ghosts. I found bits and pieces, but nothing solid. Still, I couldn't shake this feeling that there was something real behind all of it. I started reaching out to anyone who might have info, trying to connect the dots. Then things got weird. I got this anonymous message, all cryptic and warning me to back off. At first, I brushed it off as a prank, but then my computer started acting up, files disappearing, weird glitches. I even thought I saw something moving in the shadows at one point. It freaked me out, no lie. But instead of backing off like a sane person, I got even more obsessed. It was like I couldn't stop, like I had to know the truth no matter what. Looking back, it was probably not the smartest move. But when you're in the thick of it, curiosity can be a real stubborn thing. And little did I know that obsession was leading me straight into a world of secrets and danger that I never saw coming. So things got even weirder as I kept digging. I got this message one night, no idea who it was from, just saying, "They're on to you. Stop now or else." I should have taken it seriously, but I was too caught up in the whole mystery of it all. Then the warnings started piling up. Emails, weird messages on forums, even creepy phone calls with threats. Most people would have backed off at that point, but not me. I was convinced I was getting close to something big, something that could blow the lid off everything we thought we knew about aliens or whatever. Then one night my computer went berserk, screens flashing, files disappearing. It was like someone was messing with me. And then I heard this voice, clear as day, telling me to stop. I wish I could say I listened, but I was too stubborn, too deep into it all. That warning just fueled my determination to uncover the truth, no matter what or who was trying to stop me. So, despite all the weird stuff happening, I kept going. I was so close to finding out what this whole thing was about, you know? It felt like I was on the verge of uncovering something huge. I spent more time on the dark web, talking to others who were looking for the same answers. We swapped info, pieced together clues. It was like playing detective in a crazy mystery. Then one night, I stumbled onto this forum thread that seemed to hold the key. It was full of cryptic messages and talk about an ancient artifact that could reveal secrets from some ancient civilization that had contact with aliens. I couldn't believe it. It was like a plot from a sci-fi movie, but the evidence seemed legit. I reached out to the others on the forum, hoping to confirm if this artifact was the real deal. But things got weird fast. The forum suddenly went quiet, people disappeared, and I couldn't find any more leads. It was like someone had wiped out all our conversations, leaving me with more questions than answers. And then came a knock on my door. I opened it to find this guy in a suit, all serious and telling me to back off. He made it clear that I was getting into something way over my head, something powerful people didn't want me to know about. It was scary, no doubt about it, but I couldn't just let it go. I had to know what was going on, no matter how risky it was. The truth was out there, and I was determined to find it, even if it meant going against some powerful forces. After getting that warning, I felt like I was walking on eggshells. It was scary knowing I might have stirred up something way bigger than me, but I couldn't let it go. I kept digging, but way more careful this time. No leaving a digital trail, no taking unnecessary risks. Days passed and I hit dead ends left and right. It was frustrating, like chasing ghosts or trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Then, Out of the blue, I got a message from an old forum buddy. They had a lead, something promising that could crack this whole thing wide open. We met up at this secluded spot, both of us looking over our shoulders every few seconds. They handed me a flash drive with some encrypted files and spilled the beans about a secret facility where the artifact supposedly was. Back at my place, I cracked open the files and found blueprints of this underground facility. It was like something out of a spy movie, all hidden and secretive. I made a plan to sneak into the facility to finally see this artifact that everyone was talking about. But just as I was gearing up for the mission, guess who shows up? Mr. Suit and Tie himself, the guy who warned me before. He didn't beat around the bush. He knew everything and made it clear that he'd do whatever it took to keep me from finding out more. It was a gut check moment. Do I back off and live in blissful ignorance? Or do I go all in and face whatever's waiting for me at that facility? I chose the latter. Fear, curiosity, and a whole lot of stubbornness drove me forward. The final showdown was coming, and I was ready to dive headfirst into the unknown. Consequences be damned. All right, sit tight because this is a wild ride. It all started innocently enough, just another night of aimless browsing on the dark web. I stumbled upon this forum thread titled, "What's Your Deepest Desire?" Intrigued, I clicked into it, not really expecting much beyond the usual internet banter. To my surprise, the thread was buzzing with people pouring their hearts out, sharing their wildest dreams and desires. It was like a digital confessional, a place where anonymity encouraged honesty. Now, I've always been a bit of a dreamer, so I jumped right in and listed out my own wish list. A dream job that didn't feel like work, a bank account that never ran dry, true love that was the real deal. You get the picture. I poured my heart into that post, not really thinking about the consequences. Fast forward a few days, and I get this email in my inbox with the subject line that made my heart skip a beat. Your wish granted. Curiosity piqued. I clicked it open, half expecting it to be some kind of scam or phishing attempt. But what I found inside was no joke. It was a contract, a detailed one at that, listing out all my wishes like it had read my mind. And the sender? Let's just say it wasn't your friendly neighborhood genie. The contract spelled it out clear as day. I could have everything I wanted, every single one of my dreams fulfilled. But there was a catch, a big one. In exchange for this life of luxury and fulfillment, I had to give up my soul to the devil. Yeah, you heard me right, straight out of a horror movie or a cautionary tale. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was some elaborate prank or a creative marketing gimmick. But then things started to get weird. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, with images from my nightmares still burned into my mind. Shadows seemed to linger a little too long, and I swear I could hear whispers in the darkness, voices promising me everything I desired if only I'd sign that contract. It was like a constant tug of war in my head, logic telling me it was all a hoax, while temptation whispered sweet promises of a perfect life. And in a moment of weakness, of desperation maybe, I clicked accept on that email, sealing my fate with a digital signature. Little did I know that click would unleash a nightmare unlike anything I could have imagined. The contract was signed, my soul was on the line, and there was no turning back from this devil's deal. As soon as I clicked accept on that haunting email, my world plunged into a nightmare that refused to let go. It was like stepping into a fog of terror, where every shadow held a secret, and every sound whispered of impending doom. The nightmares that had plagued me before took on a new intensity, seeping into my waking hours like a malignant presence. I'd wake up gasping for air, drenched in a cold sweat, with images of darkness and despair etched into my mind. But it wasn't just the nightmares that shook me to the core. Strange occurrences began to unfold around me, things that defied explanation. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut with no one near them, and I swear I heard footsteps echoing in empty rooms, the whispers, oh God, the whispers. They started off as faint murmurs in the back of my mind, barely audible but persistent. They urged me to fulfill my end of the bargain, to embrace the promises of wealth and success that the devil's contract offered. At first I resisted. I tried to push the whispers away, to convince myself that it was all in my head. But they grew louder, more insistent, like a relentless tide eroding my willpower. It wasn't just the whispers that unnerved me, it was the feeling of being watched, of never being truly alone. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, and I caught fleeting glimpses of figures in the corners of my vision, vanishing when I turned to look. And then there were the people around me. They seemed different somehow. Their smiles were too wide, too eager, hiding something dark behind their facade of normalcy. It was like they knew something I didn't, like they were waiting for a cue to pounce. I tried to reach out for help, to confide in someone about the nightmare consuming me, but fear held me back. Who would believe such a tale? Who would understand the depth of terror I was drowning in? So, I retreated into solitude, hoping to escape the relentless grip of whatever darkness had latched onto me, but it followed, like a shadow that refused to be left behind. I knew then that I was being hunted, not just by the nightmares and whispers, but by something far more sinister, a force that wanted more than just my soul, a force that hungered for my very essence. And as I fled from one place to another, the whispers grew louder, the shadows darker, and the feeling of impending doom more suffocating than ever before. Let me tell you, paranoia became my constant companion, clinging to me like a second skin as I tried to navigate a world that seemed to have turned against me. It wasn't just the whispers anymore. It was the palpable sense of being hunted, of being a pawn in a game I never wanted to play. I tried to keep a low profile, to blend into the background and avoid drawing attention, but it was like they could sense my fear, my desperation, and they zeroed in on me with chilling accuracy. The people around me, those strange figures with their too wide smiles and hungry eyes, seemed to be everywhere. They'd approach me with casual conversation that felt like a veiled threat, asking innocent questions that probed too deeply into my life. I couldn't trust anyone, not even myself. Every shadow seemed to hold a lurking danger, every friendly face a potential threat. Paranoia twisted my thoughts, turning every innocuous interaction into a potential trap. And then came the incidents, subtle at first, like warning shots fired across my bow. A scratch at my door in the dead of night, footsteps that echoed in empty hallways when I knew I was alone, and strange symbols etched into walls where they shouldn't be. I tried to brush it off as coincidence, as my overactive imagination running wild. But deep down, I knew better. I was being watched, monitored, hunted. They needed something from me, something more than just my soul. A piece of my essence, a drop of blood, a fingerprint, all to make the devil's contract official. And they would stop at nothing to get it. I tried to run, to hide, but they were always one step ahead. It was like they knew my every move before I made it, anticipating my every attempt to escape. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, and second-guessing every decision I made. The fear was suffocating, a heavy weight that threatened to crush me under its relentless pressure. And as I write this, huddled in the corner of a rundown motel room, I can feel their presence closing in. They're outside, whispering in hushed tones, their voices growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. I don't know how much longer I can hold out, how much longer I can resist the inevitable. But one thing is certain, I will not go down without a fight. I will defy the darkness that seeks to claim me, even if it costs me everything. In the depths of my despair, a revelation dawned upon me, a chilling realization that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing the sinister machinations behind the devil's contract I had foolishly entered into. I delved deep into the origins of that fateful night on the dark web forum, retracing my digital footsteps with a newfound sense of urgency and dread. What I uncovered was nothing short of a nightmare unfolding before my eyes. The forum thread where I had innocently shared my desires wasn't just a random gathering of internet denizens. It was a carefully crafted trap, a web spun by malevolent forces lurking in the darkest corners of cyberspace. My post had acted as bait, luring in unsuspecting souls like mine, ripe for the picking. As I dug deeper, I stumbled upon tales of others who had fallen victim to similar traps, their stories mirroring mine in eerie detail. Some had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of their fate. Others were haunted by relentless nightmares and whispers that echoed in the depths of their minds. But what struck me the most was the relentless pursuit. Like me, they were hunted by shadowy figures, agents of the dark forces who sought to collect on their devilish deals. It was a game of cat and mouse, with the stakes nothing less than their immortal souls. My research led me down a rabbit hole of occult rituals, blood pacts, and unspeakable ceremonies conducted in the name of earthly desires. I learned of sacrifices made in the dead of night, of souls bartered away for fleeting pleasures that came with a heavy price tag. Armed with this newfound knowledge, a fire ignited within me, a resolve to fight back, to resist the darkness that threatened to consume me whole. I sought out others who had escaped the clutches of the devil's contract, forming an unlikely alliance forged in fear and defiance. Together, we pooled our resources, both physical and metaphysical, preparing for the inevitable showdown that loomed on the horizon. We knew it wouldn't be easy, that the forces aligned against us were formidable and unyielding. But we were not without hope. We trained, honing our skills and strengthening our resolve. We gathered weapons, both mundane and arcane, readying ourselves for the battle that would determine our very fates. As the days turned into nights and the tension mounted, we braced ourselves for the final confrontation. A clash of wills, a struggle for our very souls. We knew that the odds were stacked against us, that the road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. But we were ready to face the darkness head-on, ready to defy the forces that sought to claim us as their own. Our souls were on the line, and we were prepared to fight with every ounce of strength and determination we could muster. The stage was set for the ultimate showdown, a battle that would decide not just our own fates, but the fate of countless others who had fallen prey to the same insidious trap. And as we stood on the brink of war, a sense of grim determination settled over us. We would not go down without a fight. The night of reckoning arrived like a storm, brewing with an intensity that gave us chills. We gathered in a secluded location, a makeshift fortress of desperation and determination, fortified with every ounce of protection we could muster. As the hours crawled by and darkness draped its heavy cloak over us, a tangible tension thickened the air. We knew what was coming. The clash of wills, the battle for our very souls. Each breath felt like a countdown to the inevitable, a moment that would define our fates. And then they came, emerging from the shadows like phantoms from a nightmare. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, their forms shifting and flickering as if they were not quite solid. They moved with a predatory grace, silent and deadly, but we were ready. We stood shoulder to shoulder, a motley crew of fighters united by a common cause. Weapons gleamed in the moonlight, spells crackled with arcane energy, and hearts pounded with a mixture of fear and resolve. The clash was like thunder rolling across the heavens, a cacophony of steel meeting steel, spells colliding with dark magic, and desperate cries of battle echoing in the night. Each blow was a testament to our determination. Each spell cast a defiance against the forces of darkness. I fought with everything I had, drawing upon reserves of strength I never knew I possessed. The adrenaline surged through my veins, sharpening my focus and dulling the pain of each blow. I lost track of time, lost in the heat of battle, driven by a primal need to survive. But as the battle raged on, something shifted. The shadows seemed to waver, their hold on reality slipping like sand through fingers. We pressed our advantage, sensing an opening in the darkness that threatened to consume us. In a desperate gambit, we unleashed a torrent of energy, a blast of pure defiance that shook the very ground beneath our feet. The shadows recoiled, their forms flickering and fading as if they were being erased from existence. And then, silence. The battlefield lay still, the echoes of battle fading into the night. We stood amidst the wreckage, panting and bruised but alive, victorious against all odds. But victory came at a cost. Some of our comrades had fallen in battle, their sacrifices a heavy weight on our hearts. We mourned their loss, their bravery a shining beacon in the darkness of our memories. As dawn broke on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, we surveyed the aftermath of our struggle. The darkness had been pushed back, if only temporarily, and our souls remained our own. But we knew that the battle was far from over. The forces of darkness would regroup, licking their wounds and plotting their revenge. We would remain vigilant, ready to defend ourselves and others who might fall prey to their insidious schemes. And so, as we stood amidst the ruins of our battle, we made a vow to never forget the horrors we had faced, to never let our guard down, and to always be prepared for the darkness that lurked in the shadows. Our story was far from over, but for now, we could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that we had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. I stumbled upon some coordinates on the dark web and decided to check them out. So, hello Redditors. My name is Philip. I am still a teenager, and I am still in high school. I am 18 years old. To be more specific, I just turned 18 a few weeks ago. I love to use the computer. I am addicted to computers. I've been using a computer for gaming since I was 6 years old. I love to play games on my computer, and I also love to fool around on the web. When I say I love to fool around on the web, I mean the regular web, but also the dark web as well. I first heard about the dark web from a YouTube video. Then one of my friends got me into it. He was bragging about all the interesting and cool things he finds there, about the things you cannot find on the regular web. To be honest, at first I didn't really care too much, until one night I was bored. I was sick, so I was taking some time off of school. So I had a lot of free time on my hands. That's when I downloaded the browser Tor for the first time. Then I searched on Google for more ways to stay safe while you are online. There were search results of VPNs. I downloaded VPN as well. I also watched a video on how to stay safe while browsing the dark web. It said VPN is a must. If you have webcam, plug it off. If you have microphone, also plug it off. If it is possible, use a computer you can get rid of after accessing the dark web. I did not have that kind of computer, so I couldn't do that. I also noticed some people are also calling the dark web by names such as shadow web, darknet, black web, deep web, and whatnot. I will stick with dark web. So when I prepared everything and when I got on, I was confused. I had no idea what I was looking at. All I could see were these weird links. So my first thought that came to my mind is just to randomly start clicking on them. And that is what I did. I want to make clear one thing first. I was not looking for anything illegal. We all know what kinds of stuff you can find on the dark web. I was just surfing for fun and to pass the time faster. The first 15 to 20 links I clicked were all just texts after opening them. I didn't want to read, so I just skipped them. Then I found another interesting looking link. To be more specific, it is not the link that was interesting, but what that link opened. After clicking on the link, there were 15 or 16 numbers on the screen. The numbers were red. I don't know why these numbers intrigued me, but they did. So, I just took a piece of paper and I wrote them down. After writing them down, I decided to turn off the dark web and get some rest, because I was getting tired. That piece of paper stayed in my room for a few days. Then it was Monday. It was time for me to go to school again and see my friends again after a while. I packed my school bag and I put that piece of paper inside my school bag. Then I went downstairs to the first floor to eat breakfast. After eating, I went to the bus stop to wait for the bus to take me to my school. After arriving at the school, I finally saw my two good friends, Alex and John. Alex is the guy I mentioned before that bragged about the things he found on the dark web. So I told both of them that I went on the dark web. And I also told them about the numbers. Both of them were interested in my discovery. We agreed after school to look more into it. The classes were passing so slow. Was it because I was waiting for them to be over or what? I don't really know. But those 5 hours of school felt like eternity. And finally, after some time, the classes were over. We decided to go to a park that was near our school. Usually there were no people there. It was an old park. It was like our place. We would always go there to talk about stuff. I showed them the piece of paper. Alex said these numbers can mean a lot of things, you know. Like it can mean a date. Like month, day, year, and 100 other things. John was the smartest of us. He said that they could also be some kind of encrypted message. So I asked him, if it is encrypted, then how will we decipher it? John said, well, we will need a key. I was like, a key? What key? Where will we find a key? Then in one moment Alex yelled. He kind of scared me, to be honest. He said, by the way these numbers are written, they can only mean one thing: coordinates. When we took a closer look, that answer seemed right. So we decided to search them on Google Maps, but nothing came up. No results found. It was just an empty space. Vast, open space. Then Alex suggested that we should all gather at his house and do some research on the coordinates on the dark web. We agreed. It was already late, so we decided tomorrow after school. After that, we went back to catch our bus to go home. We all went home, and I couldn't wait for tomorrow to come. I was so excited. I could barely stay still. After turning from one side to the other in bed, somehow I fell asleep. The morning finally came. I couldn't wait to go to school after a long time. I hated school. I only liked it a little because I always had a good time with my two friends. This time the classes were passing even slower than yesterday, but somehow they were finally over. I couldn't wait to do that research about the coordinates at Alex's house. So after the classes were over, we took the bus and we all went to Alex's house. Alex had a good computer set up, good performances. So he turned on the computer and we went on the dark web. We tried to find something like Google Maps, but on the dark web, our attempts were a failure. We found nothing like that. Then we tried to search for the coordinates directly, and to our surprise, we found something. It was a picture of an old gate. It looked ancient. Also, it looked like it was underground. That made the most sense why we didn't find anything on Google Maps. So I asked, shall we check it out? John was like, hell no at first. He was like, are you stupid? You are going to check out a location you found on the dark web? Then I said, it was a question, dude. Don't get mad for no reason. Alex, on the other hand, was all fired up for it. He wanted to check it out. So, in the end, we decided to check it. I don't know if I mentioned, but the coordinates were about 200 miles from us. Luckily, Alex had driver's license so he could drive. So we decided to get ready and skip a few days off school. The very next day, our adventure started. Alex picked me and John up, and we began our journey. While we were driving there, nothing interesting happened. Just small talk, music, and maybe a little bit of singing. So after approximately 4 hours, we were close to our destination. John was scared, but me and Alex, on the other hand, were excited so much. We couldn't wait any longer to find out what is on these coordinates. The terrain was rough, so we needed to walk the last couple of miles on foot. It was like a small hill with tons of rocks, so we needed to climb up. We are all not in shape, so the climb was hard. It really tired us out. But after the hard climb, we were there. On the vast open space we found on Google Maps, but there was nothing here. So we decided to split up and search for anything that can help us maybe find that gate. But our efforts were futile. After about an hour of searching, we decided to just sit on a rock to take a rest, eat something, and after that maybe go back. While we were eating, the sun was starting to set. I don't know how, but the angle of the sun made like a reflection of something. When I looked at it, because of the reflection of the sun, I started to see after images. If you don't know what that is, check on Google for it. It is not anything special, though. The weird thing about this was that it looked like a symbol. So I asked Alex and John if they checked over there. Alex said John was supposed to check over there, and John said the same about Alex. That's when we knew where our treasure was. So we rushed over there. It was a big gate hidden inside a rock. We tried to push it, but yeah, of course it didn't budge. We tried kicking it, but no results. Then I started looking closer at the gate. There were all these symbols on it that looked ancient. But there was a small spot on the gate that was missing. It was like a half moon and 3 star symbols above it. I pointed my finger there so Alex and John can see it. So Alex said, "So that is like a key?" "Well, sadly, we don't have it." As he said that, from under my shirt, I pulled the necklace my father gave me. It was that same symbol from the gate. John and Alex were like, "Dude, how the hell do you have that? Where did you get it?" I answered my father gave it to me before he passed away. So this gave me even more questions about the dark web, about my father, about the gate, about everything. How is my father connected to this? So when I put the necklace inside the gate, nothing happened. But when we tried to push the gate this time, it was so light, like a feather. When we took a look inside, the first thing we saw are these torches. We needed to lit them up so we can use them. I had a lighter, and we lit up a torch for everyone. It was a long corridor, but there were torches left and right on the walls, so as we were going forward, we lit up the torches. This looked like a location out of the game Uncharted or something out of Tomb Raider. As we kept moving forward, we came in front of a wooden door. We tried to push it, and the door opened. Inside there were pictures of my father, his watch that I vividly remember, and a book. When I turned the book to the last page, I saw that the author is Tom. That was my father's name. In the book there was one thing that gave me creeps, and it was on the first page. It said, "If you are already reading this, it is too late." That's when we heard some weird noise coming from further away. It was like a creak, but coming from an animal. We decided to go and check it out. We kept on moving until we came in front of something like jail bars that closed the entire tunnel from top to the bottom. We couldn't pass through them. That's when something tried to bite us from the other side. It was a monster. It had like a spider legs, but something that resembles a human head. It had more than 2 eyes. When we saw that, that's when we started running back. I only took the book my father wrote and the watch, and we finally left that place. We pushed the gate back, and I took my necklace back. We were all in shock from what we saw. No one said a word. I opened the book and I started reading. Like I said, it was written, "If you are reading this, it is already too late. I am dead. I hope whoever is reading this is safe. But the one I hope to find this book is my son. Son, if you are reading this, just know one thing. I love you, and what I did is to protect you and your mom. Please forgive me for everything." Me and the organization built this place to keep that thing trapped inside there. We don't know what that thing is, but we managed to trap it. As long as it is behind those bars, it will not get out. The symbols on the door are a seal. There are marks from every culture and mythology. They are seals again, bad forces, and spirit. The key I gave you is to protect it. But if you don't want to do that, you can just throw it somewhere or maybe bury it somewhere. I don't know if you remember how I died. But while we were transporting that thing here, your mother was with us. After all, she was part of the organization. And somehow that thing got out. And he went after your mother while she was pregnant with you. So while I was trying to save her, that thing bit me. The other people that were with us managed to put it back to sleep, but too late. We transported it to the secret tomb and locked it in there. At first, nothing was wrong with me, but after a few months, I started to get sicker and sicker. It took me 3 years before that poison from that thing finally finished me. Now that you have read this, you can ask your mother to tell you more about the details. I will tell you one thing you should know. There are monsters out there, and our family-long tradition is to hunt them down. If you don't want to go down that path, that is up to you. After reading this far, I told Alex and John it's time to go home, so we went to our car, and slowly we started driving back. In the car, there was not much talking, no music. We were all quiet. After a few hours, we got home, and I run straight to my mother asking her questions. I asked her about the organization. I asked her about her family tradition. I asked her about my father and what actually happened to him. And I showed her the book. I told her I wanted answers. She said, "I am not going to tell you anything because I don't want you to go down that path." I got mad and myself in my room. That's all for now. Maybe in the future I'll give you an update. Thanks for listening to this story. And after reading my father's book, now I know that the people are not the scariest thing out there. There are monsters far more dangerous and terrifying than humans. Hey Reddit, I've been lurking for a while and I never thought I'd have anything worth posting. But here I am, typing this out with shaking hands and a heart that feels like it's about to explode from my chest. I need to get this off my chest, and I'm hoping someone out there will believe me, or at least know what to do. It all started with boredom. I know, that's the lamest excuse, but it's true. I was just a regular guy, mid-20s, working a dead-end job, living in a small apartment with too much time on my hands. I'd heard about the dark web before. Who hasn't? It's the stuff of urban legends and horror stories. But like an idiot, I thought it would be fun to poke around. Just a harmless peek, right? Wrong. So wrong. I had a bit of tech knowledge, enough to set up Tor and navigate the hidden corners of the internet. I started small, looking at forums and marketplaces, marveling at how everything you could imagine was for sale, and I do mean everything. Drugs, weapons, stolen data, hitmen. It was like stepping into a dystopian nightmare. But then I stumbled upon a link with no description, just a plain, unassuming hyperlink buried in a thread about online games. I don't know why, but I clicked it. Maybe it was the thrill of the unknown, the allure of something forbidden. The page that loaded was minimalistic, almost bare. Just a black background with white text that said, "Welcome to the game. Do you dare to play?" There was no explanation, no rules, just a single button that said, "Enter." Against my better judgment, I clicked it. What followed was the most intense, terrifying experience of my life. The screen flickered and went black for a moment before a new message appeared. "Thank you for entering. To begin, upload a photo of yourself." I hesitated. Something about it felt off, but I brushed it aside. I thought it was just part of the game, an attempt to make it feel more real. So, I uploaded a recent selfie and hit submit. The next prompt sent chills down my spine. "What's your name?" I typed it in, feeling a growing unease. The screen went black again, then a new message appeared. "Welcome, Mike. The game begins now. Survive if you can." I waited, staring at the screen, expecting some sort of challenge or puzzle, but nothing happened, just that ominous message. After a few minutes, I closed the browser, feeling a mix of confusion and disappointment. I thought maybe it was just some elaborate prank. But then things started getting weird. It began with phone calls. I'd answer, and there'd be nothing but silence on the other end. Then, late at night, I started hearing noises outside my apartment. Footsteps, whispers, the creak of the floorboards in the hallway. I convinced myself it was just paranoia, that I was spooking myself out. Then a package arrived at my door. No return address, just a plain brown box. Inside, there was a single Polaroid picture of me sitting at my computer, taken from behind. My blood ran cold. Someone had been in my apartment. I tried to shrug it off, to convince myself it was all just a coincidence. But then I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Game over." The body of the email contained every piece of personal information about me. My full name, my address, my phone number, my workplace, even my family members' details. Attached was a link. Against my better judgment, I clicked it. It took me to a dark web forum where my information was posted, along with a message. Target, Mike. Bounty, $50,000. My heart stopped. I read and reread the message, hoping I was imagining things, but it was real. Someone had put a bounty on my head, and every sicko on the dark web now knew who I was and where to find me. I packed a bag and fled that night. I didn't know where I was going, just that I needed to get as far away as possible. I've been on the run ever since, staying in cheap motels, using cash for everything, trying to stay off the radar. But I know they're still out there, watching, waiting. And now I'm here, writing this, hoping someone can help me. I don't know how much longer I can keep running, and I'm terrified that one day soon they'll catch up to me. If you've read this far, please stay away from the dark web. It's not worth the thrill. Curiosity killed the cat, and it's about to kill me too. I'll update if I can, but for now, all I can do is try to stay one step ahead. Pray for me, Reddit. I'm going to need it. Hey Reddit, it's me again. Thanks to everyone who commented on my first post. Your advice and support mean more to me than I can express. It's been a couple of weeks since I last updated, and I wish I had better news. But things have only gotten worse. After leaving my apartment, I bounced around for a while trying to stay ahead of whoever was hunting me. I switched motels every couple of days, kept my head down, and avoided using my phone. But no matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. One night I checked into a rundown motel on the outskirts of a small town. I thought it would be safe, far enough off the beaten path to avoid detection. But that night, as I was trying to sleep, I heard something outside my door. A soft scraping sound, like someone dragging something along the ground. I grabbed the closest thing I could use as a weapon, a rusty old lamp, and crept towards the door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I peered through the peephole, but I couldn't see anything. Just darkness. The scraping sound stopped, replaced by a low, almost inaudible whisper. Come out, wherever you are." My blood turned to ice. I stepped back from the door, holding the lamp like a lifeline. The whispering continued, growing louder and more insistent. I knew I couldn't stay there. I needed to get out, but the only way out was through that door. Summoning every ounce of courage, I flung the door open and charged into the hallway. It was empty. No one was there. I ran down the corridor, not looking back, and burst into the night. I didn't stop running until I reached the edge of town, my lungs burning, my legs ready to give out. I found a payphone and called a taxi, giving the driver a random destination miles away. I needed to put as much distance between myself and that motel as possible. The driver gave me a strange look when he saw me, sweaty, disheveled, clutching a rusty lamp. But he didn't ask questions. He just drove. I ended up in another small town, even more remote than the last. I rented a room in a shabby inn and collapsed onto the bed, utterly exhausted. But sleep wouldn't come. My mind was racing, replaying the events of the night over and over. Who was whispering outside my door? How did they find me? The next morning, I decided to reach out to an old friend. Let's call him Jake. Jake was one of those tech-savvy guys who knew his way around the dark web. If anyone could help me figure out what was going on, it was him. I used a burner phone to call him, explaining my situation as best I could. He listened in stunned silence, then promised to dig into the matter. A few days later, he called me back, his voice tense and urgent. "Dude, you need to get out of there. Now." He explained that he had found the original forum where my information was posted. It was worse than I thought. Not only was my info still up, but people were actively discussing me. There were updates on my whereabouts, photos taken from security cameras, even snippets of conversations I'd had with strangers. It was like a nightmare come to life. I was being hunted by an entire network of people who seemed to know my every move. Jake said he'd try to find out who was behind it, but he didn't sound hopeful. "These people are professionals," he said. "They cover their tracks well." That night I didn't sleep at all. I packed my bag and left the inn before dawn, moving deeper into the countryside. I found a secluded cabin to rent, hoping the isolation would buy me some time. But even there, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I started noticing things out of place, a broken twig near the cabin, footprints in the dirt, the faint smell of cigarette smoke. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Every rustle in the bushes set my nerves on edge. I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever, but I had no idea where to go or who to trust. Jake called again with more bad news. He had found out that the game I played was part of a larger, more sinister organization. They targeted people at random, drawing them into a deadly hunt for sport. And once you were marked, there was no escape. The only way out was death, yours or theirs. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I'm running out of places to hide, and the net is closing in. Every day is a struggle to stay one step ahead, but I'm getting tired. I can't keep running forever. Please, if anyone out there has any advice, anything that might help, let me know. I'm desperate, and if you're thinking about exploring the dark web for fun, learn from my mistake. Some doors are better left unopened. I'll update again if I can. Stay safe out there. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up. The walls are closing in and I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need to get this out while I still can. After I last posted, I decided to go even deeper into hiding. Jake suggested I head to a place where I could blend in with a transient population, somewhere busy enough to lose myself in the crowd. I took his advice and ended up in a big city, checking into a rundown hostel filled with backpackers and drifters. It seemed like the perfect place to disappear. For a while it worked. I kept a low profile, changed my appearance, grew a beard, dyed my hair, and used cash for everything. I thought I might finally be safe, but the paranoia never left. I avoided talking to people, afraid that anyone could be watching me or reporting back to the hunters. One night, I was sitting in the common area of the hostel, pretending to read a book. The TV was on, and the local news was running a story about a missing person. As the segment ended, a commercial break started. My blood ran cold when I saw my face flash across the screen. It wasn't an ad. It was a message. If you see this man, call the number below. Do not approach. He is dangerous. The picture was one of the selfies I had uploaded to that cursed game. I bolted out of the hostel, heart pounding. How the hell did they manage to get my photo on TV? I wandered the streets trying to come up with a plan. I knew I couldn't go back to the hostel. I was completely exposed. I found a 24-hour diner and slipped into a booth at the back, ordering coffee to keep myself awake. As I sat there trying to calm my racing thoughts, I noticed a man sitting at the counter, staring at me. He looked ordinary enough, but something about the way he watched me set off alarm bells. I left money on the table and slipped out the back door, disappearing into the night. I walked for hours, trying to lose myself in the labyrinth of the city. Finally, I ended up in a homeless encampment under a bridge. It was dirty and chaotic, but it felt safer than being out in the open. I stayed there for a few days, avoiding eye contact, keeping my head down. But even among the homeless, I couldn't escape. I woke up one morning to find a note pinned to my jacket. "We're coming for you." I showed the note to Jake during one of our phone calls. He was horrified. "You need to get out of there," he said. "I've been digging deeper, and it's worse than we thought. These people are part of an underground network. They trade in human lives, hunt people for sport, and they're using the dark web to coordinate." Jake told me he'd found a possible lead, someone who might know more about the organization and how to stop them. The catch was that I'd have to travel across the country to meet this person. It was risky, but I was out of options. Staying put was a death sentence. I scraped together what little money I had left and bought a bus ticket, traveling under a fake name. The journey was long and nerve-wracking, every stop a potential trap. I barely slept, my mind filled with images of shadowy figures closing in on me. When I finally arrived at my destination, I was exhausted but determined. Jake had arranged for me to meet his contact in a dingy bar on the outskirts of town. The man was a former hacker who had gone underground after a run-in with the same organization that was hunting me. Let's call him Mark. Mark was grizzled and paranoid, but he agreed to help. He confirmed what Jake had told me. The game was just a front for a twisted network of hunters and their wealthy backers. They used the dark web to track and trade information on their targets, turning people's lives into their sick version of reality TV. Mark told me there was a way to fight back, but it would be dangerous. We needed to infiltrate their network, find the server where they stored their information, and destroy it. It sounded impossible, but I had no other choice. It was that, or keep running until they eventually caught me. We spent the next few days preparing. Mark taught me how to use the dark web more effectively, how to cover my tracks, and how to access the hidden forums where the hunters operated. It was a crash course in cyber warfare, and I felt woefully unprepared. But we didn't have time for second thoughts. We set up in a basement, surrounded by computers and wires, and launched our attack. It was like stepping into another world, a dark, twisted realm where every keystroke could be our last. As we dug deeper, I started to see familiar names and faces. The hunters were real, and they were everywhere: politicians, businessmen, even celebrities, all part of this sick game. I felt a mix of anger and fear, knowing that these powerful people were the ones pulling the strings. Finally, we found the server. It was heavily encrypted, but Mark was a genius. He broke through the defenses, and we saw the database. Hundreds of names, photos, personal information, all laid out like a twisted menu. My name was there, near the top. Seeing it was like a punch to the gut, but there was no time to dwell on it. Mark started the process of wiping the server, and I watched as the data disappeared, one line at a time. But then something went wrong. Alarms started blaring and the screen flashed red. They knew we were there. We grabbed our stuff and ran, barely making it out of the basement before it exploded behind us. Someone had set a trap and we had walked right into it. We fled into the night, but I knew it was only a matter of time before they found us. The hunters wouldn't stop until they had their revenge. I'm writing this from another motel, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Mark is trying to find a new safe house, but I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. If you're reading this, stay away from the dark web. Don't play the game. And if you can, help us. We're running out of time, and I don't know what else to do. I'll update again if I can. Pray for us. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I didn't think I'd be able to write another update, but here I am, still alive, barely. The situation has escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined, and I need to get this down while I still can. After the explosion, Mark and I went underground. We found an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, setting up a makeshift hideout with what little equipment we had left. The place was filthy and cold, but it offered some semblance of safety. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to believe we might have a chance. Mark spent every waking moment on his laptop, tapping into the dark web and trying to gather intel. I did my best to help, running errands, keeping watch, and trying to keep my mind from spiraling into panic. But every noise, every shadow, felt like a threat. One night, as I was returning from a supply run, I noticed a figure loitering near the warehouse. I ducked behind a dumpster, watching as the person moved closer. It was a woman wearing a long coat and a hood that obscured her face. She looked around cautiously before slipping inside. I waited a few minutes, my heart pounding in my chest, before following her. Inside, I found Mark and the woman talking in hushed tones. When she saw me, she pulled down her hood, revealing a familiar face. It was Emma, an old friend of Mark's and a former member of the organization. Emma had managed to escape years ago and had been in hiding ever since. She'd heard about our attack on the server and had come to offer her help. She knew the inner workings of the organization better than anyone and had valuable information that could turn the tide in our favor. According to Emma, the organization had a central hub, a physical location where they coordinated their activities. If we could find it and expose it, we might have a chance to bring them down. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot we had. The next few days were a blur of planning and preparation. Emma provided us with maps, codes, and insider knowledge. We knew it would be dangerous, but we had no other choice. We had to strike at the heart of the beast. The night of the operation, we set out under the cover of darkness. Emma led the way, guiding us through back alleys and side streets to avoid detection. The central hub was located in an unassuming office building in the middle of the city, hidden in plain sight. We made our way inside using forged credentials and Emma's knowledge of the security systems. The building was eerily quiet, the only sound our footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. We reached the server room without incident, and Mark got to work, hacking into the system. As he worked, Emma and I kept watch, our nerves on edge. Every second felt like an eternity, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Then, just as Mark was about to finish, the lights went out, plunging us into darkness. Panic set in as we heard footsteps approaching. We had been found. Emma pulled out a gun, motioning for us to stay quiet. The footsteps grew louder, and I could see the silhouette of a man approaching. Emma fired, and the man dropped, but more were coming. We grabbed the data Mark had managed to download and fled, bullets whizzing past us as we ran. We burst out of the building and into the night, not stopping until we were miles away. We found refuge in another safe house Emma had prepared, collapsing in exhaustion. The data we retrieved was invaluable. It contained names, locations, and evidence of the organization's activities. We had enough to expose them to the world, but we needed to act fast. They would be coming for us, and we had no time to lose. We contacted every journalist, law enforcement agency, and hacker collective we could think of, spreading the information as widely as possible. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The story went viral, and the authorities launched an investigation. But the organization wasn't going down without a fight. They retaliated, sending waves of operatives to silence us. We were constantly on the move, never staying in one place for more than a few hours. It was a game of cat and mouse, and the stakes were higher than ever. One night, as we were preparing to move again, our safe house was raided. They came out of nowhere, smashing through doors and windows. Emma fought bravely, but she was outnumbered. She told us to run, buying us precious time with her life. Mark and I escaped, but the loss of Emma was a heavy blow. We had lost a friend and ally, and our chances of survival were dwindling. We found another hideout, a tiny dilapidated cabin in the middle of the woods. It was far from civilization, but it offered a modicum of safety. As I sit here writing this, Mark is working on a plan to disappear completely. He believes he can erase our digital footprints, make us vanish from the grid. It's risky and will require us to cut all ties, but it's our only hope. I don't know if we'll make it, Reddit. The hunters are relentless, and they won't stop until we're dead. But we've come this far, and we're not giving up yet. If you're reading this, thank you for your support. And please be careful. The dark web is a dangerous place, and some doors should never be opened. I'll try to update again if I can, but if this is my last post, know that we fought until the end. Stay safe, and don't make the same mistakes I did. Hey Reddit, this will probably be my last update. The situation has reached a breaking point, and I don't know if we'll make it out alive. I'm writing this from the basement of an old farmhouse, somewhere so remote it doesn't even show up on maps. Mark says it's our best shot at staying hidden, but I'm not so sure anymore. After Emma's death, things spiraled out of control. The organization intensified their efforts to find us, sending wave after wave of operatives. Every time we thought we were safe, they found us. It's like they have eyes everywhere, like we're always being watched. Mark's been working non-stop, trying to erase our digital footprints and create new identities for us. It's a monumental task, and the stress is taking its toll on both of us. We barely sleep, living off canned food and adrenaline. Every noise outside makes us jump, and we're always ready to run at a moment's notice. A few days ago, we had a breakthrough. Mark managed to hack into a high-level communication network used by the organization. We found messages discussing a final operation to capture us. They're planning a coordinated strike, and it's happening soon. With this knowledge, we decided to take one last, desperate gamble. We contacted a group of vigilante hackers known as the Revenants. They're notorious for taking down corrupt organizations, and they agreed to help us in exchange for the data we retrieved. It's risky, but we have no other choice. We set a trap, luring the hunters to an abandoned factory on the edge of town. The Revenants planted explosives throughout the building and set up a secure perimeter. Mark and I were the bait, and we knew it could be a dangerous mission. As night fell, we took our positions waiting in the shadows. The air was thick with tension, and every second felt like an eternity. Finally, we heard them. The unmistakable sound of heavy boots and hushed voices. The hunters had arrived. They moved with military precision, sweeping the area methodically. I held my breath, clutching a makeshift weapon, ready for the worst. Just as they reached our position, Mark triggered the explosives. The factory erupted in a cacophony of fire and debris, and we ran for our lives. The explosion took out most of the hunters, but a few survived. They pursued us through the wreckage, bullets whizzing past us. Mark was hit, collapsing to the ground. I tried to help him, but he pushed me away, yelling for me to keep running. I stumbled through the dark, my heart breaking as I left Mark behind. The sound of gunfire and shouts faded into the distance, and I found myself alone in the woods. I didn't stop running until I reached the farmhouse, collapsing in exhaustion. I've been here ever since, hiding in the basement, waiting for the inevitable. I don't know if Mark made it out alive, and the guilt is eating me alive. The Revenants said they would come for me, but I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore. If you're reading this, please remember our story. The dark web is a twisted, dangerous place, and the people who inhabit it are ruthless. I was just a regular guy, curious and bored, and it led me down a path of terror and destruction. The sun is rising now, and I can hear movement outside. This might be the end for me, but I won't go down without a fight. If I can take just one of them with me, maybe it'll all be worth it. Stay safe, Reddit, and remember, some doors should never be opened. Goodbye.